Hello, my name is Arana Altmer, and welcome to episode 2 of my show, Podcast of Shadows. I want to wish you all, firstly, a magical new year, and I hope that you also had a fantastic Yule celebration. This year, on New Year's Day, we had a new moon. It has been 19 years since we had the last new moon on New Year's Day before. So if you started any healthy eating regimes or exercise plans for the new year, hopefully you'll get a good boost. In general, the new moon is a fantastic time to start new projects, so the timing with the new year is a very special one, and one of those things you'll experience in your lifetime. I wonder if I'll get to see another one. I would also like to thank everyone for sending me feedback from my last episode. And as promised, I said I would read them out. So here we go. This is an email I received from Sherry. And Sherry says, "Hello, Arana. I really enjoyed your podcast show and loved the warm feeling it had. I felt as if I was sitting by a warm fire and listening to my mother speaking wisdom. It's nice to see a new pagan podcast to breathe new life into the podcast world, you ancient whistling Dixie, Sherry. I can't wait for your next episode and hope you have a great success. Blessed be, Sherry." Well, thank you very much, Sherry, and I'm glad I remind you of your mother. She must have been a fabulous woman like myself. Next, I had a comment on YouTube from Grandma Mary. And Mary says, "I absolutely loved this podcast, and the images were a nice touch, even though I know you're not going to be doing them on YouTube. Loved it. Felt like a nice, cozy atmosphere. I'm going to get a hot chocolate and snuggle in bed and listen again. Keep up the good work, and I can't wait for the next one." Well, thank you very much for that, Grandma Mary, for your lovely comment, and I hope that you will enjoy this episode as much as you enjoyed the last. Now, without further ado, I'm going to start my first segment now on something I was thinking I wanted to teach you, unless you already know. But in that case, listen anyway, because you might learn something new. Now, it's how to create your own crystal remedies. Now, I love using these as I find they're a great way, another alternative way of getting the healing benefits of crystals. You can, by ingesting them or applying the water to various different parts of your body. Now, what a crystal remedy is it's water infused with the crystal and left to charge by sunlight or moonlight. Now, these are so handy, and you can use them for a lot of things, from spiritual growth or any physical or emotional pains you might have. For example, I know a girl who used to suffer with anxiety quite a lot, and she didn't want to take any medication or that. So we created one of these remedies for her, and she took it over a prolonged period of time. And she found it very helpful. She couldn't believe the difference, actually. But they're also a great way to have a bit of fun, and I always have a bit of fun when I'm creating my remedies. Now, obviously, the healing power of each crystal works for a different ailment. For example, amethyst remedies can be used to treat alcoholism or boost your immune system. Onyx stones can be used for a weak bone structure, or you could use tiger's eye for anxiety and fear. Now, you don't need a large crystal for your energy to infuse the water. Any little small, ridiculous-looking one will do, to be perfectly honest with you. So you don't need to go out in all expense, unless they're diamonds. Now, how you create your water is very easy. What you will need is a small bowl, some water. Now, you can use mineral water or distilled water, but I personally prefer to collect some rainwater, if you don't mind that. Next, you'll need a cleansed crystal of your choice, some brandy. No, not to drink. Well, you could have maybe one or two as you're making your remedy, just to ground yourself. But keep some for the crystal remedy. You'll also need a dark glass jar to store it, not the empty brandy bottle. Now, the first step is picking your light source. Now, a remedy for a physical condition should be made in sunlight and left for at least 3 hours to infuse. And emotional, spiritual, or mental remedies should be made any time between a new moon and a full moon. Not the other two, because they're usually to decrease things and we want to give our crystals a good boost. So any time between a new moon and a full moon. Now, place your crystal in a bowl with your water. Make sure your crystal is in a good spot in the water so it can absorb the moonlight or the sunlight. Don't just leave it off to the side. Make sure it can absorb that. Now, you leave your moonlight waters out until the next day, and as I said, the sunlight remedies need at least 3 hours. After you've charged your waters, place it in your jar. Half fill it, and top up the rest with the brandy. I also like to keep the crystal in my jar as I find it makes it more potent, but that's up to you. Afterwards, don't forget to label your jar and note the date and the crystal used and how you made it, so sun or moon. You should also store it in a dark, cool place, and it can last up to 3 years. I actually just made up one last night using bloodstone for a woman who suffered with her circulation. So I'll give that to her tomorrow and she'll let me know how she gets on. So I'll let you all know. Oh, before I go any further, I have to let you know that there is some crystals that you can't use because some crystals naturally contain metals and other substances that the bodies can't process, so it can be quite toxic. Now, they're probably nothing to worry about as there is only a couple. You probably haven't heard of them as they are very uncommon. I personally haven't seen half of them, but I am going to put them up on the show notes on the website just so you can have a quick look and to make sure. Most of the crystals, you know, such as amethyst, clear quartz, and topaz, any such things like that, they can all be used. These ones have very strange names such as glania and things that I haven't even heard of, but I will put them up on the website just to make sure. Now, the easiest way for you to take your remedies once you have them finished, I find what I like to do is put 5 drops of your remedy in a glass of water and take it twice daily. Now, you can also add a couple of drops to your bath water, on your pulse point, or directly under your tongue. Now, I really advise you to try them out and let me know what you think. And don't overdo it with the brandy. Now, another subject on crystals I wanted to discuss with you is cleansing your crystals. Now, it's very important to cleanse your crystals for a number of reasons, especially if you're working with other people with your crystals, as they absorb energy from yourself, your environment, and the other people. So we want to remove that energy and top them up again. Now, some people I meet tell me that crystals can absorb negative and positive energy, but if anyone says that, you pass no remarks. Because whether energy is good or bad, energy is just energy. So once you cleanse your crystal, you won't have to worry about it. Now, there's lots of different ways you can cleanse your crystals. The most popular one I find personally is leaving the crystal in a bowl of salt water overnight to remove any impurities. Well, That's all well and good, but I changed that when I found out a few years ago it doesn't work for all crystals, as some aren't water soluble, should we say. I think it was a desert rose crystal I had, and I placed it in the water with the salt, and the next day I woke up and it dissolved. So, since then, my new personal way of cleansing my crystals, and I now do it with all of them, is go out to your back garden, if you have one, dig a small hole and bury your crystals and leave them under the full moon for a full moon cycle, 28 days. I find that the earth and the moon not only cleanse the crystal, but charge them up as well, so I get both of them done. Now, if you don't have a garden, you could leave them outside on a windowsill. Just make sure it's not windy or they might blow away and smash something. Now, when I did use the water cleansing option, afterwards I would leave my crystal to dry in sunlight, as I also found to charge the crystal with natural energy and makes it more powerful. Now, they're just the way I use, but there are other ways, such as a sage smudge stick and passing the crystals through the smoke to cleanse it. But I'd advise you to do the way I describe, because I've had no problems with them. Sorry about that. I just paused there to run out for a quick cigarette, and the blasted thing broke in my pocket. Oof, that always happens to me. I put a cigarette in my pocket from the box, nip outside, and I end up doing 101 things on my way, and I lift the cigarette out of my pocket and it usually is broke. So that's very frustrating. And if any of you, if any of you out there have any ideas of how I can fix a broken cigarette, that would be good. Because a lot of the times it does be my last one, and I usually end up getting a bit of sellotape trying to put it together, but it's probably not good for my lungs inhaling half a sellotape. So, not to say I'm a heavy smoker or anything, but I do love my cigarettes and my glass of wine. And I do eat healthy and exercise every day, so they're just my little secret habits, and I love them. I could use crystals and cells and everything to go off them, but I don't want to. I never give up smoking, and I've never tried, and I don't want to. And that's just me. Now, before I finish up on the crystal segment, I wanted to do a crystal, and hopefully in the next few episodes give you a little bit of information on a couple of crystals, just to boost your vocabulary on them. I was wondering what crystals to do for my show today, and I had to choose my favourite crystal. Now, it's nothing special, but I simply adore it. It's called a Mookaite. Mookaite. It's one I started using in the last few years, as I discovered it in a gift shop. You know, the little stalls of crystals they have, and the little pamphlets they have above the crystals which describe what that crystal is for. Well, this one said it was for adventure and new ideas, and I just love the sound of that. So I picked it up, and since then I carry my Mookaite with me everywhere, if I can remember to take it with me. Now, I'm going to read a quick description of the Mookaite out from a book, as it's just handier for me rather than sitting rambling about it and missing out on information. This book is entitled The Crystal Healer by Philip Permont. And Philip... My goodness, just ignore her, sorry. And Philip says, the Mookaite is a patterned red and cream variety of jasper. It's a common source in Australia, and its astrological associations are with Leo. And I personally am a Leo, just so you know. The Mookaite also stimulates the base chakra. Now, its healing qualities are it's good for people who need to make decisions and seeking creativity and new perceptions, ideas, or work. It's also good for those who are coping with children and loneliness. It offers general protection and helps communication. Some physical healing qualities of the Mukati are: it's good for weight loss and the health of the stomach and thyroid gland. It helps hernia and water retention. Some emotional benefits of the Mukati: it's good for grounding, dreaming, moving forward in life and building self-esteem. It can also help with fear and depression and aids meditation. Now, the pamphlet I read did say it was for adventure, which wasn't in that, but I have had quite a few adventures since I've been carrying that with me. That's probably quite a good, accurate description of the Mukati crystal, as I'm sure it can vary from different books you might read, but I would say that's very accurate from my own personal experience of using the Mukati. Now, I'm going to move on and discuss a herb next, as I haven't done that yet, and I wanted to get around to doing that. As I'm sure you all know, herbs are one of the most natural sources of health promotion. You can see this from beauty products, herbal medicines, dietary supplements. They're just a great source for you to know and use, as they've got very little side effects and they also strengthen your immune system as they heal. Now, I personally use herbs for my health and try to add them to my diet when I can. As you know, diet and exercise are probably the best way to keep you in good health. So that's what I'm going to be concentrating on in my herbal segment. Now, I'm no master herbalist, and I don't claim to be. However, I did do a basic herbal course, but that was a couple of years ago. So I do know a bit about different plant structures and their effects on the body, but I'm no master. But I decided to start my first herb with a little festive inspiration, and I wanted to choose a warming herb because of this dreadful cold weather we've been having, and as I heard in the news there, it's going to get much worse. So I chose cinnamon. Cinnamon is one of the most oldest and important herbs in history. It's not something that you just throw into your Christmas puddings and biscuits. No, no. It's been used for centuries for its benefits. I think it was the ancient Egyptians used to use it to purify their temples because it has great purification properties. And it was also said that Columbus discovered America as he was searching for cinnamon and other spices. So that's a little bit of folklore of cinnamon for you. And now that I speak of that, I actually think it was used in the nest of the legendary phoenix. So there you go. That's all well and good, but we want to know what it can do for us. Now, cinnamon is a very potent herb, as I'm sure you probably smelt it before, and it has a sort of peppery and spicy smell, which is excellent if you're feeling under the weather, tired and weak from the cold weather we've been having. So maybe it's a good idea to burn some cinnamon oil in your home during the frosty nights. Now, cinnamon is brilliant for your health, as I like to concentrate on. It's very good for your digestive system. And it's also great for bloating or constipation, not to mention being wonderful for your circulation, which I also recommended to my friend. So I personally started adding a little bit of cinnamon to my morning coffee, just to try and get its benefits, and it's absolutely gorgeous, and I'm actually looking forward to having one now in the morning. But you could also add it to your porridge or yogurt, and actually adding it to your porridge is a great idea because it lowers blood sugar levels, so it's good to combine with any carby foods. The best way probably to get the benefits of cinnamon would be to buy it as a supplement from your local health food store. It's also very high in antioxidants, which is good for you as well. Now, if you're not into sort of taking it in dietary supplements, another great way to get benefits from cinnamon is buy it as an essential oil and use it in a vaporizer. Not only does it smell great and make you feel great and vitalized and revived, but it's also a great antiseptic and antivirus, as the Egyptians used it for on their temples. So it can help protect your home against any nasty germs and bugs that might be lingering about during this season. I love to mix cinnamon oil with a citrus oil like lemon or orange because I find they go quite well together and complement each other, as lemon and orange are very purification as with all citrus oils. So it's a good idea to mix them two together. So if you have any cinnamon left over from your baking during the festive period, put it to good use and start using it. I also personally am starting to try a fresh start for the new year and eat properly and do a little bit more exercise. So I'll be throwing a bit of things like this into the podcast every so often. Now I'm going to take a short break and put coal on my fire as it's starting to die out and I need to keep my house warm and cozy during this weather. So I'm going to have a quick break and I'll be back shortly for a bit of magic. See you in a few minutes. My name is Arana Oldsma, and I would like to introduce you to my new show, Podcast of Shadows. Being High Priestess of my coven for over 20 years, I would like to share with you my experiences. Together, we will share a magical journey through this earth. Have a glass of wine in your hand, light some candles or a cigarette, and join me for my podcast of shadows, available to download from iTunes or podcastofshadows@web.com. See you there. Now I think it's time for my spellcasting segment. I briefly sort of did an introduction to spellcasting in my last podcast, but this time I wanted to try and incorporate a simple spell for you all to try out. Now, I am going to do a simple candle spell for blessing your home for the new year. You can use candles for a range of different spells, substituting a different colour or a different scent for a specific thing, such as a purple candle for good luck, pink for love, or black to absorb any depression or negativity. Today I'm going to be using a white candle for purification and blessing. This spell is best performed on a Saturday, which is the day of Saturn, and associated with clearing objects and freshness. Also, if you have any frankincense oil, you could use a little bit of that on the candle to boost the purification properties. Now, I am actually going to do the spell as I'm talking you through it, as it's just a handier way for me to explain it. And what you'll need is your white candle. Doesn't matter whether it's a tea light, a normal candle, a dinner candle for your romantic dinner table, doesn't matter. You'll also need a pen and a piece of paper, a lighter or some matches, and a burn-proof dish, such as an oven tray or similar. Once you have everything you need, I want you to get your pen and paper and write your intention down on the piece of paper. So as I'm doing a blessing spell, I'm going to say something like, you don't have to use this: fire bless my space to be a safe and happy place. So write that down on your piece of paper. Now, if you're doing a candle spell for good luck, you could obviously substitute in a purple candle, and you could write something different down as your intention. Now, I like to rhyme in my intentions or my incantations, so you don't have to do that. You can be as blunt as you like. I could have just wrote down, bless my home for the new year, and that's still putting my intention down. But I personally like to put a rhyme in, as I find it makes it more magical and helps me focus on the intention. Once you have your intention written down, I want you to light your candle and sit quietly beside it, contemplating your wish. As the candle is burning down, visualize the energy of your will being released by the candle in its smoke and going up to the universe and taking your intention with it. Now I want you to get your piece of paper and placing the candle in the oven-proof dish, I want you to slowly burn the piece of paper in the candle and let the smoke go into the atmosphere. Hold the piece of paper in the candle until it's completely burned away. At this stage, I like to use something to bind my spell, so you could recite a suitable incantation. For this one, I'm going to use my own incantation, which I will put in the show notes if you'd like to use it as well, but I would recommend you to create your own. I call in earth to heed my spell, air to speed its passage well. Bright as fire shall this spell glow, deep as tide of water flow. By my will this spell is done. So you can say your binding out aloud, or you could slowly do it silently to yourself. After you've binded your spell, blow the candle out and keep your intention secret until it comes true. Now, this is only a basic candle spell, but I thought I'd give it to you just to help you get into spellcraft, and it's very handy and simple to use, and it helps you create a bit of magic and gets you into it, so that's what I want. So if anyone tries that out, I would love to hear feedback, and just shoot me a quick email. Now, I am going to wrap up this podcast as it is getting quite late here, and I think I covered enough, and I don't want to boil your brains too much. So before I go, I wanted to let you know that the next full moon is on the 15th of January. It can vary depending on the time frame that you're in, the country you live in. But for us over here in the States and NYC, it's on the 15th of January, and it would be in and around that in the country you live in. The full moon is a great time to start charging and cleansing your crystals and pick magical herbs and create moon waters and moon charms. So I'd advise you to create a bit of magic coming up to the full moon. I could sit here and talk about the full moon for hours. The amount of association that is with magic and the moon is just unbelievable, and I will have to cover it in a episode in the future. And also the power that the moon has on our planet. As you know, it can create earthquakes and it controls the tide, and don't forget we're 80% water, so she also has a control in us. It's amazing if you look at any studies that the moon can influence crime rates, and the amount of hospital reports during a full moon are completely ridiculous compared to a different phase of the moon. It can cause a lot of mental illnesses as well, so to say, which is probably where the phenomenon of the werewolf came from. I personally think that came from, there's a condition called lycanthropy. I'll put the name in the show notes. And that's a condition where people can actually develop superhuman strength from a full moon. I know it's strange, but it's true. You must have a look at it. So I think that's probably a main reason for the legend of the werewolf. But who am I to say? I've never seen a werewolf. They probably do exist. I won't say they don't. So anyway, look forward to your full moon on the 15th of January if you can after that. I'm going to leave you now, and I really hope you enjoyed this episode. And if you did, please send me some feedback. And if you'd also like me to discuss a different herb or something for a symptom you had, please feel free to send me an email and I will discuss it on the show. Now I'm going to leave you, and thanks very much. And I hope the goddess protects you all through time and space. Blessed be.